All right, so this is going to be my pre-video. Basically, number one, I'm going to explain how my injury happened in the first place. Um, at my work, I basically got like a gym set up here, which I'm going to try and pan around. Try not to make anybody sick here. We've got our bench, and then free weights there, table, and then a pulley system here. And we train twice a week here, as well as going to practice. And anyways, that's my pull-up bar right there. And on an unsuspecting Thursday, I'm down here with my buddy John. We're working out. He's doing some bench, and I'm over here doing some pull-ups. And I'm up on this sucker, and it's the middle of summer, so I'm wearing flip-flops. And I hold, let go with this arm, and I'm kind of holding as long as I can until I get the full extension, and then I switch over to the other arm, back and forth. Well, on my second time on my left arm, I felt like I was gonna just I was really fatigued, and so I was gonna let go and look down and see that, I'm wearing flip-flops, and this bar is up pretty high. I don't know if you can tell, but literally, I'll stand here and see. It's really high. It's about another 1.5 feet over my head. So we got to jump to get onto that guy. And there's this weird little lip right here. And so wearing flip-flops, I'm thinking in my head, I don't want to fall down there and, break my ankle or whatever. So I threw my right arm up, fully extended. Well, drop, 205 pounds at the time, drop all my body weight on it, and literally I hear a pop and then a second pop. And I'm just like, no, like I knew instantly what happened, and I'm fucking pissed about it. And John's like, are you okay? And I'm fucking holding my arm, like, fuck, And he's like, dude, you need to go to the hospital. I'm like, I know, dude, I gotta lock up my store. It's the middle of the day. Usually when we train is when I'm slower here. I own a car stereo shop, and so I was, basically in the middle of the day having to close down the store, which sucks, but I need to go get it taken care of. So I lock up the front door, John leaves. I go down to the local walking clinic. I had just gotten medical 2 months prior, and I haven't had medical in years. Thank God, because I can't even tell you how much this is costing. And anyways, I go down there, and they've got like a 2-hour wait, and they're like, oh, you could try the one over in Lake Stevens, because I'm in Marysville. Drove over to Lake Stevens, get there, and then the lady's like, oh, well, we don't take your medical. And I'm like, well, I showed the other lady my medical card. You think she would have said something? No, whatever. So I have to drive all the way down to Everett. So I drive all the way down to Everett. I get into this clinic over there, and wait for like an hour, hour and a half. Finally, I get seen. I go in there. He's looking at my arm, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm sure you tore the lower tendon off of the forearm." He's like, "Your biceps rolled up to here. He's like, you're probably gonna need an MRI." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's why I'm here. I want to get the MRI." And he's like, "Oh, well, we'd have to set up an appointment. It's gonna be 2 to 3 weeks." And I know from other people who've had this injury that this is very, very time sensitive. So I'm like, this is the whole reason why I came here. You guys don't have an MRI? And the doctor was super cool. And he just looks at me and he says, here's what I would do if I were you. Pretend like you didn't come here. He said, go down to Providence Hospital there in Everett, because they have everything on site. And, just go in there like you just got your injury, just don't say anything about being here. So I did, went down to Providence Hospital. All of this started at like around 2 o'clock, I want to say, in the afternoon, maybe a little bit earlier than that. By this time, it's probably about 4:30 that I get to Providence. I get checked into the ER. There's nothing but old people in there worried that they have COVID because they see this on the news, and so it's backlogged. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's sad, and it is what it is. So I wait probably about 3 hours. They have no rooms available. They take me back into the back part of the ER. They give me a chair to sit in the hallway. So I'm sitting in a chair in the hallway. And these nurses come up and they do, this and that. And they're like, well, we're going to get an x-ray. I'm like, okay, go get the x-ray. X-ray looks fine. I'm like, well, we need to do an MRI. She's like, let me call down to MRI and see how long it's going to be. She says, well, we could probably get you in around 7:30. Does that work? And I'm like, I don't care how long it takes. I'm like, that's the reason why I'm here. I need the MRI because I want to get on top of this. And, you know, if it's truly torn off the bone or whatever, we need to move forward and I need to get this going. So she's like, okay, yeah, just wait here. So I sit on a freaking chair. You know, it's like 5:30. I text my lady. I'm like, can you bring me some food? I'm freaking dying here. She brings me some coffee and some food. She's there for, you know, half hour. I tell her to go because I don't want her to have to sit there all night with me. 7:30 comes and goes. 8 o'clock comes and goes. 8:30, 9 o'clock. Finally, they come up. Oh, yeah, you're going to be next. I got my MRI at 2:30 in the morning. So literally what started for me going to the first clinic, I basically got there at about 2:30 because the injury happened around 2. It took me almost 12 full hours to get the MRI at the hospital. At the hospital, I was there for, you know, about 10 hours, a little less than 10 hours. And it was something else, I tell you. And then, of course, I get the MRI, and doctor comes down. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, yeah, you're going to need surgery. And he's like, look here. And he shows me. And he's like, yeah, it's clean off the bone, your toes. So I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Here we go. Okay. So I left there. They gave me a referral for the clinic that I went to in Lake Stevens for them to meet with one of their surgeons. And I called, and they're like, well, we don't accept your medical. And I'm like, yeah, no shit you don't. Stupid hospital. So I called like back to the hospital. They gave me another place. It was the same nonsense. So I ended up calling my medical, which is Ambetter, and got a list from them of, you know, all of the different surgeons who took my medical. Found Edmonds Orthopedic down in, you know, the Linwood Edmonds area. Got an appointment set up with them. Got down there, got in. Things went pretty smooth from that. I got my first appointment. He wanted to get me in like 3 days later. I had to put it out 2 weeks because I had appointments that I needed to do installs at my business. And there was just, there's nobody else to do them. So either I'd have to refund people's money, and I knew the second I got surgery done, I wasn't going to be able to use my right arm. So I asked him, I was like, look, I got these appointments. I was like, can I do these? And he said, you've already done the damage to your arm. He says, you're not going to make it any worse. He says, yeah, we can put this out. He says, I don't like to put this out past like 6 weeks. He says, like 3 to 4 weeks is kind of ideal. He says, you get into 6 weeks, he says, the tendon shortens up and it's too hard to attach. And then sometimes there's complications and problems like that. But he's like, 2 weeks, no problem, you know. And so my surgery ended up being about 3.5 weeks after the injury, which is fine. I mean, it worked out. Obviously, it's worked out pretty good, you know, other than, you know, how fast I heal and my issues. But that's all the bullshit that I went through in order to try and get set up. I just want everybody to be aware of that. If you think that you've got this injury, if it's obvious to you, if your bicep rolls up, you got something like that, make sure that you insist on getting the MRI as quickly as possible. Because otherwise, what would have happened is I'd have had to wait 2 weeks, would have got the MRI. Then I would have scheduled my appointment with the surgeon, which took about a week and a half for me to get in for him. And then I would have been seen by him. And then if for some reason his surgery schedule was backed up 2 or 3 weeks, you might be into that 6, 7, 8 week mark, which the surgeon said is bad news. So you don't want to be there. So anyways, with that being said, it's the whole point to me explaining how my injury happened and how I got into the doctors prior to my surgery, because these things are super time sensitive and they're important. You're going to want to make sure that you're on top of it. You're not going to be thinking about it because you're not expecting this. Nobody ever is. And the amount of people who have probably even watched the videos that I produce is probably very small, because most people are thinking, I'm never going to get this injury. What do I care? And to be honest, you know, people ask me all the time when I was wearing the stupid brace, did you break your arm? And I'm like, God, I wish. Break your arm, you know, it's like 4 to 6 weeks, it's healed and you're good to go again. This is a 6 week or 6 month recovery. 6 months, you know, it's not quick. I mean, it's 3 months before you can even put your weight back on your freaking arm. So, you know, and then, yeah, so, I mean, just be cautious about that. Make sure what kind of medical you got and stuff. I've gotten a lot of the billing coming in for everything that I've done. Like for my initial ER appointment with the MRI and stuff like that, it was billed like around $3,500. You don't have medical, that's expensive, you know. The doctor's visit that I had, and then the first visit with the surgeon, that kind of stuff, probably amounted to about another $500 or $600. And then I'm trying to remember. So the surgery itself, that ran, it was about 52 grand. And then there was a separate fee for the person who gives you your, puts you to sleep, the anesthesiologist. And that was about another $3,500 too. So, you know, everything's said and done, well over 60 grand. So, you know, think about that too when you're arm wrestling. If you don't have medical, maybe you want to have medical, because I can't imagine if I'd had to pay cash for this. You know, I'm not a poor person, but I'm not a rich person either. And if I had to give up 60 grand, you know, that's most people's savings. So, you know, I would have been pretty sad. But anyways, yeah, so this is my pre-1 video. This is kind of how everything went down. I was meaning to do this right out of the gate, but, you know, life gets busy, and, you know, I tried to have it organized best I could in my head to let you guys know how it kind of progressed. And, yeah, that's where we're at. All right, everybody, have a good day.